Ever wonder why stories are so much fun? Well, they make us happy, take us to places that give us a little scare, help us solve mysteries, makes us laugh, cry, and think so much that we forgot where we are. Usually, we enjoy stories by reading books or watching movies. But there's also video games. You know, regular stories go like this. We see things happening, maybe through a character's eyes or someone telling the story. It's a good way, and we like it. We start caring about the characters and what's going on. But we're just watching, not really partaking in anything. Video games change that. They let us live the story. No more sitting and watching. In video games, you're the star. Imagine being the hero saving the day, the tricky bad guy causing trouble, or just a dad running away from a giant vampire lady to keep his kids safe. It's not only about watching, it's about being the one making the story. That's why video game stories are so awesome. This video is all about understanding the power that video games hold in narrating stories, and in fact, giving us the reins to make it happen the way we want. So, let's dive in. The journey. Video game storytelling has transformed significantly over the years, evolving from simple plots to complex cinematic experiences that rival traditional media. This journey through the narrative landscape of gaming provides insights into its profound impact on both players and the storytelling medium as a whole. In the early days of gaming, narratives took a backseat to gameplay mechanics. Games like Pong and Space Invaders were more focused on interactive challenges than intricate stories. However, as technology advanced, so did the storytelling capabilities of video games. Text-based adventures in the 1970s marked a pivotal moment, allowing players to engage with narratives in a more interactive way. Yet, it was the RPGs of the 1980s, such as Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, that laid the foundation for more complex storylines and character development. These games introduced players to intricate worlds, compelling characters, and overarching story arcs that captivated the imagination. The 1990s witnessed a paradigm shift towards narrative-driven gameplay. Games like Metal Gear Solid and Final Fantasy VII incorporated cinematic cutscenes and voice acting, elevating the storytelling experience to a whole new level. Players were no longer mere spectators navigating through levels. They were immersed in compelling narratives that rivaled those of traditional media. As we reflect on these narrative milestones, it becomes clear that video game storytelling evolved not just in the complexity, but also in emotional resonance. Early RPGs set the stage, cinematic cutscenes brought a new dimension, and the transition to 3D environments expanded the possibilities. Interactive narratives in games like Mass Effect and The Witcher 3 added layers of complexity where players' choices impacted the unfolding story. Recent titles like The Last of Us Part 2 showcase the emotional depths that video game narratives can achieve. These stories make players not just participants, but emotionally invested protagonists navigating complex moral landscapes. It's a testament to the medium's capacity for nuanced storytelling, proving that video games can be as emotionally resonant, if not more so, than traditional forms of storytelling. The elements of best game story. Unlike traditional storytelling formats, video games harness the power of direct player engagement, making every decision a ripple that shapes the unfolding narrative. Consider the impacts of tangible changes in the gaming environment. In a sci-fi game, a story beat that removes gravity from a segment fundamentally alters the gameplay. The immediate and noticeable shift in mechanics serves as a powerful tool to convey the consequences of in-game events or player choices. This direct link between narrative events and gameplay changes not only tells a story, but allows players to witness and feel the repercussions of their actions. Take the example of Commander Shepard in the Mass Effect series, where the renegade choices leave visible scars and changes in the character's eyes, reflecting their morality. This nuanced approach to character progression goes beyond traditional storytelling, providing players with a visual representation of the impact of their choices on the protagonist. Character progression further contributes to the storytelling dynamic. As players accumulate experience, the expectation is not only for the game to become more challenging, but for the characters to evolve and grow stronger. This is mirrored in the intricacy and grandiosity of clothing and armor sets. visually representing the journey and development of the characters. Cutscenes, encounters, and QTE. Yet storytelling in video games isn't always about constant interactivity. Linear and predetermined segments such as cutscenes, unique encounter animations, and quick-time events offers a different narrative dimension. Cutscenes, whether in-engine or pre-rendered, provide moments of controlled storytelling where players can observe their characters in pivotal cutscenes. Unique encounter segments, like intro cinematics, introduce new foes with a cinematic flair, adding a layer of spectacle to the storytelling. QTEs, on the other hand, blend interactivity with predetermined actions. While they deviate from the open-ended nature of most games, they serve as an advanced form of cutscene, where players contribute to the unfolding action through timed key presses. These techniques, though more controlled and linear, allow for precise pacing and convey specific story beats with cinematic flair. The use of environment. Video game stories extend far beyond the protagonists and the immediate plot. They are set in worlds with histories, where events have unfolded long before the player character's journey begins. This intricate layer of storytelling is known as environmental storytelling, where the very structures and environments silently narrate tales of the past. Picture entering a desolate town in a game, and the abandoned buildings whisper of a time when life bustled through its streets. This subtle yet evocative narrative device prompts players to wonder, what happened here before my arrival? The environment itself becomes a silent storyteller, inviting players to piece together the untold stories that echo in the empty spaces. From the clever placement of hidden secrets to the construction of levels that tell a spatial story, the environment becomes an active participant in the narrative. Players, through their interactions, uncover not just hidden treasures, but also snippets of the broader story that the environment holds. Consider a scenario where the player's actions affect the environment, a forest that changes based on whether the player chooses to protect or exploit its resources. This interaction establishes a dynamic relationship between the player and the world, where every decision becomes a page in the ongoing story. It's a delicate dance between a story that has already happened and one that unfolds based on the player's choices. Creating room for these dual dynamics is crucial in environmental storytelling. The world should feel lived in, carrying the weight of its own history, while also being responsive to the player's presence. This intricate balance between the pre-established narrative and the player-driven story creates a rich and immersive experience. For instance, in the Dark Souls games, the environments themselves are laden with history and lore. From the ruined architecture to the placement of items, players piece together the story of a once great world now on the brink of collapse. Each area tells a tale of its rise and fall, encouraging players to speculate and interpret the game world's history. In essence, environmental storytelling in its various forms adds depth to the gaming experience. It goes beyond scripted events and character dialogues, allowing players to explore and interpret the game world in a more holistic manner. The silent narratives embedded in the environment create a sense of continuity and coherence, making the virtual world feel like a living, breathing entity with its own tales to tell. From none to something. The abilities and tools available to the player are not just gameplay elements, they are crucial components in telling a story. Imagine your character growing from a beginner with no special skills to someone who's really good at fighting. How your character moves, what they can do, and even their emotions and background all tell a story. It's not just about playing, it's about understanding who the character is. Think about a character like Sephiroth. His appearance, how he moves, and the things he can do are not just for fun. They tell us about his past, his powers, and why he's so important in the game world. Unlocking skills. Games like Metroid and Castlevania started this idea. As you get better at the game, you unlock new skills that show you more about the story. Going back to places you've been before isn't just for fun, it's like reading a book again and finding new things. Unlocking new skills isn't just a game thing, it's like showing how much you've learned and grown through the story. It makes the game more interesting, makes you curious, and lets you see how your journey is changing. The connection. In video games, characters don't go solo. They connect with us, the game world, and each other. It's not just about scripted talks, it's about how events shape these bonds. Going through ups and downs with Joel and Ellie in The Last of Us, or facing off with the Vaas in Far Cry 3. These relationships aren't just story tools, they're the feelings that steer us through the game. Whether friend or foe, these connections guide us through the story's twists. As we explore these game worlds, relationships aren't just on the screen. They are ways we understand characters' hearts, wants, and struggles. The choices we make aren't just the game moves, they affect how characters get along. Helping out or betraying, each choice adds to the evolving story of relationships. Think of two characters on a journey. It's not just about moving through levels, but deepening the emotional ties they share. Like in real life, these relationships make the story richer. The good times, the clashes, and the touching moments that aren't just parts of the plot, they're the heart of the story. In games, we don't just watch stories, we live them. The relationships we build aren't distant, they're real experiences. The happiness of a friend's success or the pain of a buddy's letdown. These feelings become our own, shaking us up. Familiar stories often sneak in. The hero with memory loss, the revenge-thirsty foe, the rescue mission that never ends. Breaking these habits spices up the gaming world, throwing players into tales they never saw coming. Take BioShock, a masterclass in shaking up expectations. Players start with a simple "would you kindly" request, but as the story unfolds, it turns into a mind-bending journey of choices, fate, and the illusion of free will. Players, thinking they're helping, end up questioning the very foundations of their actions. Breaking the habit isn't just about plot twists, it's about toying with players' minds. From breaking the fourth wall to unexpected turns, games like to keep players guessing. Humorous remarks, sudden twists, these are the tools developers use to keep the gaming experience fresh and unpredictable. Beyond the screen, games aim for immersion, but pesky UI elements often break that spell. Yet, developers have turned this challenge into a canvas for storytelling. How? By integrating user interface and heads-up display elements seamlessly into the game's narrative. Consider Skyrim, a world without a cluttered minimap. Players rely on a compass and a separate menu for the map. The challenge for developers? Crafting a map that guides, informs, and immerses without spoon-feeding information. Skyrim's map becomes a silent storyteller. Icy peaks, mysterious swamps, winding roads, and castles reveal themselves as players explore, promoting curiosity and a sense of discovery. Bottom line: indie gems like This War of Mine, Paper Please, and Thomas Was Alone prove that a compelling narrative doesn't always require a blockbuster budget. These games showcase the diverse stories waiting to be told, regardless of the resources at hand. So, when you play a game next time, think about the story it's telling. Is it a big adventure or a personal journey? Is it about winning or making tricky decisions? The best part is, you get to decide what story unfolds. Happy gaming and happy storytelling.